Well, here's a tech tip that's going to be routine for some people, and one of those I've never done it, want to try it tip for others. So here's a scenario. You need a ride someplace, let's say to the airport or to the doctor's or shopping, but no one's available to take you, or you just don't want to ask. Or maybe your car's in the shop, or as in my case, you don't want to take a car to park it someplace for days. So what do? So today I'm going to discuss using Uber or Lyft ride sharing. Stay tuned. So this is Tech Tips for Seniors, a show with tips for seniors, or anyone really, on how to better use technology such as smartphones and computers in your daily lives. And I'm your host, Bruce Ciotta, and today's show is on using Uber or Lyft ride sharing. So my story is pretty simple. I use Uber and Lyft nowadays to get to the airport mostly, or to get home from the airport when parking a car in the airport is not practical for us. Let's say a trip is going to take us a couple of weeks, and paying for parking is just kind of out of the question for doing something long-term like that. So it just makes sense to use rideshare in that scenario. So what is ride sharing? It's using an app to get a ride from a regular person, someone who drives to make money using their own car. It's convenient, it's reasonable, and it's simple, but it may be scary the first time. So what do? Well, you use an app on your smartphone to call a ride. It can be a real-time or scheduled ride. Let's say you need it right now, or you know you're going to need it tomorrow morning, and you can pre-program for that ride to arrive at a certain time. And how do you do this? Well, you designate a pickup location, probably your house, but it could be the airport or a store that you're at or a doctor's office, and you designate where you want to go. So if it's one of those other locations like the airport, you probably want to go home. So you put in your home address, and then an estimated price appears. Now, at that point, you have a choice to accept and submit it. And then within minutes, a driver accepts your request, and you can see how long it'll be before that driver will arrive at your house. It also tells you the driver's name. It shows you a picture of the driver, a car and plate shows up, and some ratings on how that driver has been rated. And this is very important because you want to have confidence when you get in that car. The next thing you know, a driver arrives that meets that description, of course, and you get in and off you go to your destination. And then it automatically charges you because your app is set up with a credit card already preloaded. That charge goes through to your card, and you also have the option to put in a tip for that driver. I usually wait until the ride is over so that I get a good idea that the ride driver is acceptable and has done everything that I expected, and then I'll be able to enter in a tip which goes to the driver. So are these safe? Well, there are stories, but honestly, they're very rare. Many people use rideshare and without any incident whatsoever. But be aware that pricing for these services is fluid, meaning that it rises and falls depending on the demand, the time of day you may be using it, and it could be that you're at the airport and suddenly there's something called surge pricing, where a typical ride might be, for me, $30 or $40, could go up as much as $60 to $100 depending on the time of day, and it may just not be worth it to do it. So just be aware that that exists, but that doesn't happen to me very often, and it's mostly when I'm at a congested location at a busy time. So as far as doing this, I like to show demos in my shows. I want to do so in a live format, so I'm going to post an actual demo, and I will link it to this podcast when I take my very next ride on Uber, and this way you can see a real-time post. Well, I hope this was helpful to you, give you a little idea about ride sharing, and do me a favor and please leave a comment in the comments section of this show, and you can write me if you want to just tell me whether this was helpful or not at techtipsforseniorsPodcast@gmail.com. Well, thanks for joining me today on Tech Tips for Seniors. I hope you found today's tech tip helpful. If so, let me know by leaving a note in the comments section for this episode. And it would be really nice if you would like, subscribe, and pass this on to a friend who could get something out of it. It really depends on those kinds of referrals. It would also be helpful if you left us a review. If you've already done that, thank you very much. Remember, stay tuned for the next episode of Tech Tips for Seniors. Take care.